Okay, buenas noches. I know it might not be noches when you're watching it, but it's noches for me when I'm making it. I hope you're well. I appreciate everybody who showed up to the Zoom meeting. We had over 20. That is excellent. And I'm proud of you for coming and for paying attention. And I apologize for the mess up with the video. But we're going to go ahead and look at the second kind of object pronouns tonight. Indirect object pronouns. Now, before we go on with our notes, if you can just remember with me, subject pronouns are who's doing the action in a sentence. Yo, tú, él, usted, ella, nosotros, ellos, ustedes. Those are your subject pronouns and they are the ones doing the action. We just got through talking about in another video direct object pronouns, which receive the direct action of the verb. The best example I give is he threw the ball. We ask ourselves, what was thrown? And that was the ball. That's the direct object. If I say he threw the ball to Sally, what is the direct object? Well, once again, ask yourself what was thrown. What was directly affected by the verb throw? And that was the ball. But then again, I still have Sally in my sentence. He threw the ball to Sally. Sally is my indirect object. And please notice, an indirect object, now I'm on your notes, tells to or for whom an action is performed. Who is indirectly affected by the verb? Who received the ball that was thrown? The ball was thrown, but Sally was the one indirectly affected by that. So if you'll notice with me right here, I gave you some English examples. My dad gives John money. There is a direct object in that sentence. I'm going to say what is given. Given was money. Money's my direct object, but to whom is it given? It was given to John, right? And I should have written John right here. Sorry about that. The second sentence is in Spanish. It pretty much says the same thing. Mi papá da dinero a John. ¿Qué es dado? Dinero. Dinero quiere decir money. ¿A quién es dado? A John. The second example I give you here says, I make a cake for my mom. What is made? Cake. That's my direct object. Indirect object, for whom is it made? Mom. I made a cake for my mom. Yo hago un pastel. Yo hago un pastel para mi mamá. ¿Qué es hecho? Pastel. Indirect object, para quién es hecho? Para mamá. Okay? So the difference is we're not giving John to someone else and we're not making our mom, but they are affected by the verb indirectly. So same story. We're not going to keep saying, I made a cake for my mom. It was my mom's birthday. I'm going to change that and use a pronoun to replace my indirect object noun. So if you'll notice, here are some examples of us changing that to the object pronoun. My dad gives John money. He gives him money every week. Him refers back to John. John is my antecedent. I can't say he gives him money every week without telling you who him is in the first sentence. The second one says, I make a cake for my mom. I make a cake for her. Okay? So here are your indirect object pronouns. And I hope that you've already noticed, because you've already studied these notes very carefully, may is the same word on the direct object pronouns and the indirect object pronouns. The difference is that on the direct object pronouns, and I'm going to show you that one for just a second, it just says me and you and him and her and blah, blah, blah. On indirect object pronouns, it says to or for me, to or for you, to or for him, to or for us, to or for, okay? So, me is to or for me, te is to you, so me and te are the same, and nos is even the same word as on the direct object list. Down here is where you'll find the difference. On your direct object pronoun chart, it's lo and la right here, but on the indirect object pronoun chart, it's le. And over here, instead of los and las, you have les. So those are the only two real differences that you have to memorize as far as what the words are up here. So let's look at that. Oh, looky there. There's another example of rid. So now that we have two object pronouns, let me go ahead and tell you what this means. We actually have three kinds in Spanish. You're only going to learn two, in Spanish one. But this is the order you will always find object pronouns in. You will not have three in a row, but whatever two you have, this is their order. So if we wanted to say, Dad gives John money, he gives it to him. Now I have two pronouns. Which one goes first? Oh, the indirect pronoun has to come before the direct object pronoun. And that's what I'm saying to you about the pronouns, okay? You will learn that so much better a little bit later. Okay, an indirect object, looky here, guys. An indirect object comes right before the single conjugated verb. One verb means one option, and that is before the verb, okay? Look at that. That is just like the ones with the direct object. If you only have one verb that you're dealing with for your pronoun, you only have one option, and that's to put it before the verb. So an indirect object pronoun comes right before the verb. This one says, Nos pasas la sal, por favor. Please pass us the salt. What is passed? The salt. That's direct object. So there's my direct object. That's the salt. What's being passed? The salt. But to whom is it being passed? Oh, snap. It's being passed to us. So to us is the nos. Nos pasas la sal, por favor. Please, please, please do not ever abbreviate the subject pronoun nosotros with this, because it means us. It does not mean we. This next sentence says, this next sentence says, les enseño español. I teach them, in this case, my students, Spanish. I teach them Spanish. What is being taught? Well, Spanish is. There's my direct object. But to whom is it being taught? The students, them. So it has to be les. Okay? Them refers back to les. To them. Okay? All right. When an infinitive follows a conjugated verb, there we go again, infinitive and conjugated verb. Remember two verb constructions. The indirect object pronoun can be placed before or attached. So I will repeat one more time. Two verbs means you have two options. One is before the verb phrase, or attached to the end. And I'm abbreviating that, but up here you have the whole sentence telling you what that means. So here's an example. Quiero darles dinero. This is attached to the end. See how it's straight on there? I want to give them money. Or les quiero dar dinero. Please notice this is the same word and your verb phrase doesn't change. Quiero dar, quiero dar. You can't stick that les in the middle. It has to be all the way at the beginning or all the way at the end attached. Okay? So let me move to the second page of our indirect object pronoun notes. These were a little bit shorter, or at least they felt that way. It says, oh, this is where it gets a little complicated. You'll remember that when we first started learning verbs, in the 6 chart, we said that I don't have to tell you, you know what, I'm gonna do this at the bottom down here. When I started doing verbs, let's say I did my verb hablar. So when I did hablar, remember my 6 chart endings? O, as, a, amos, an. This was ice. Remember, we said because only one person lives here, if I say hablo, you know that I'm talking about yo. If I say hablas, you know I'm talking about two. But the problem came here because habla could have been usted or he or she. Remember, we had that conversation. So we run into that same problem. If you look at your 6 chart here, you have le. But le means to him, or to her, or to usted. Les can mean to them or to y'all, the plural. Ooh, I didn't write plural right there. Let me write that. So the problem now, I'm at the top of the 2nd page of your indirect object notes, says, because le and les have more than one meaning, him, her, you can make the meaning clear or show emphasis by adding a and the corresponding name, noun, or pronoun. So what I really, really want you to understand is you do not need the a for it to be grammatically correct. You have to have the object pronoun, but you can put this on to tell who you're talking about. So let's look at this first example. Les doy dinero a los niños. Les could be them or y'all. So I want to be sure I clarify who that is. So I can put a los niños at the end of my sentence, and now I know that les is them. I give them money, and in parentheses I wrote the children because that's how I clarify, but it's not grammatically necessary. The second one says, a mis estudiantes les enseño español. On the first page, I just had les enseño español, but you didn't really know who les was until I told you. So here I can just tell you in my sentence, a mis estudiantes les enseño español. I teach them Spanish, and you know it's my students because I clarified that for you right here with the personal I told you these are my students. Now, those two are clarifying for you. And you'll notice I put a los niños at the end of the sentence. On this one, I put it at the beginning because what I want you to know is you can put it either place. It doesn't really matter. I give money to the kids I give money. It doesn't matter. And then the last one says, John me dice la verdad a mí. When I look at this word me, do I have any questions about who that is? No, no, no. Me can only be me or to me. There's no question who John is telling the truth to. He's telling it to me. But if I want to emphasize that, then I can put a mí on there. For instance, if someone comes up and says, well, that John guy, he's such a liar, then I can say, no, John tells me the truth. In English, we do it with our voice emphasis. But in Spanish, you can really emphasize it by saying, John me dice la verdad a mí. Okay? And then here's some practice with your indirect object pronouns. You can use your charts. Please use your charts. Once again, this one says, replace the underlined indirect object with the correct indirect object pronoun. My dad gives Mark used books. He gives used books to him. So now I'm looking for to him on my chart. I find him down here in the L slot, and that is going to be le. So my dad gives Mark used books. Mi papá le da libros usados. Okay? And then down here at the bottom, guys, this is where it gets more complicated because you've got two people that you're having to look at. This says, I tell you the truth. So the subject is I. So there's my yo. But this isn't may. I have to see who I'm telling the truth to. So here is you. I'm telling you the truth. I look back at my chart for usted or to. I prefer to in this case. So I'm going to say te. Yo te digo la verdad. Please notice I only have one verb, so it has to go before the conjugated verb. Okay? Thank you for your attention. I know these have been fairly long videos, but I think it was definitely worth it because the verb construction we're going to learn next week needs you to know these really well. Okay? I'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks so much.